welcome to the University of Findlay Art and Culture Show. I am Sharinda Welton, your host, and today we have on set with us a very special guest, my dear friend, Mr. Ed Mabrey. Nice to have you on set finally after how many years of trying to get this scheduled.
It's been a while, but I'm glad to be here.
I am so glad to have you here. I'm so excited to introduce you to our viewing audience.
Thank you.
Because you are a man of many talents. And I know that when I first met you, we were talking about this before we came on set today. It was back in Chicago.
Yes.
At a conference, and you were showcasing there. And I take students to these conferences, and then they have a voice on who they bring to campus.
Right.
And then I'm chasing all of you down saying, may I schedule you to come do an interview when you're in the area?
Right.
And you're on a national tour right now,
Yeah.
and so we're so excited that you're in Northwest Ohio.
Thank you. No, I love being here. I was born and raised in Ohio, so any opportunity and excuse to come back to Ohio is like coming home.
Yeah, you're a fellow Buckeye. Woo.
Yes.
That's awesome. And you currently are living out in LA right now?
Yes, I moved out to LA to pursue the other side of what I do, performing-wise,
Yeah, and so let's dive right into that. First and foremost, you are an internationally acclaimed and award-winning spoken word poet.
Sure.
You are. We see the accolades everywhere, and you're going to be really humble. So let me just brag about Ed for a little bit. But what is spoken word? Some people hear slam poetry, spoken word poetry. They hear those two types, and they go, oh, that's not poetry. But it very much is poetry.
Right.
It's just that it's newer to American ears, maybe.
Yeah, and it's been around for a long time. Okay, poetry slam is the act of competing using poetry, right? So technically speaking, there's no such thing as slam poetry, but what happened is there's no such thing as beat poetry, right? But because there was a certain aesthetic that came up in the howl and the yelp in that era of the beret and the little, bongos and whatnot. So they had to give it something. Like once it became a phenomenon, it has to be labeled in order to be branded and marketed. So Poetry Slam was started a long time ago by Mark Smith. It evolved and became this thing that no one could control, which is beautiful. It's how art should be. And then people started going, oh, well, how do you know that person? Or where are they performing? Oh, they're a slam poet. Because they saw them at a poetry slam. So they didn't know how else to put it. Like, everyone can play football, but that doesn't make you an NFL player.
Yes, but you are an NFL player of slam. That's for sure.
a little bit. So it's been around for a while, but there's no major difference. Spoken word just means that you're speaking using words. Slam poet means typically the person they're referring to or the person speaking is familiar with poetry slam. Otherwise, you're a poet or a spoken word artist. There's people, lyricists, people call it a million things. If it's not rapping or singing and it involves a microphone or not, and you saying something out of your mouth, it's just poetry, or it's a poetry reading. Normally go to schools, it becomes a reading, a recitation, a lecture you're sharing. But it's all the same thing. Yeah, it's all just words. As long as you're making people feel something and you're challenging them in some kind of format, you're making a statement, or hopefully more importantly, you're asking and presenting a question. Then I think you're kind of getting your job done. Yeah.
And in that performance venue, the response of the audience is a little bit different than if you went to a concert or a football game, because within this setting, oftentimes it's a smaller venue setting, it's more intimate, so not to miss the words, the attendees, if they're connecting with something, they often...
Oh, the snaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny, that actually started back with the Harlem Renaissance era and the Langston Hughes era. You had like a snaps and taps, which meant finger snaps and toe taps.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Then actually there was a point in time when it was a negative thing. In Chicago, if someone did that, because the beat era that came up in Chicago, they actually meant it as a diss. Depending on the area you went, they'd be like, oh yeah, you're one of those.
Kind of like the God bless you in a good way, or bless your heart in a good
so people would do
way.
it, and the people that would be sitting there would know they're actually being funny. The person performing would have no idea, so they weren't stopping your process as far as sharing, but they were also letting people like, this guy is horrible.
Yeah.
Yes, that's funny part. Yeah, but snapping, actually what I personally enjoy, I mean, I love the silence, it's great, but much like those concerts that you talk about, it's a whole nother thing if you can really, what's fun is getting a crowd worked up, you know, to where you kind of have them where they'll cheer or they'll laugh or they'll respond accordingly. Because that's not supposed to happen
yes.
at a poetry event. So doing that is even more, so no different than I think if you're at a concert and someone is playing a song or singing so beautifully that you actually got quiet instead of going crazy like, oh, I just want to, I'm just stuck in this moment. I think that's even a more, because there used to be people screaming. At concerts, used to screaming. So like dead silence, I'm like, oh, wow, I really got them. You know, and same thing otherwise, the poetry, like, oh my God, they're going crazy. Like, oh, I really got them, you know,
Well, and there are times that I have been sitting in your audience because I have had the honor of sitting in your concerts numerous times over the years since we first met, which is awesome. But there are so many times where I'm trying to keep in that, you know, or even that, preach it, come on, you know, because it's just, you are able to get to a nerve with the way that you present that the nerve is something that needs to be discussed. It needs to be thought of. It needs to be processed. But you do it in such an amazing way that the audience, it doesn't matter what color our skin is, what clothes we're wearing, we're all able to go on that journey with you. The journey sometimes may be very specific for the characters within your poetry, but the journey that they are sharing with us, we can identify potentially in our circles of where we're traveling. And that's just amazing, because there's been times I've sat with listening to poets, and because of the delivery or something, there's a wall that seems to go up. I can't process or I can't connect, and you are just so generous with how, and there's a lot of humility in how you present, and that's such a gift you have.
Thank you. Well, it's a matter of you can discuss things if you're not preaching to the choir, you know, which for anyone watching this later just means you're speaking to people that already are on the same page as you. Then I find that it works best if you kind of speak to the emotion of what you're trying to say, because all have emotions, you know. So maybe due to upbringing or training or culture or nurture versus nature, whatever the case may be, maybe someone can't identify with a particular story. You know, they are fourth generation billionaires, right? And you're like, oh, there's this kid on the street or this homeless man. They're like, but if you discuss how that person has pride in their appearance, if you discuss how that person cares about their family, if you discuss their outlook on life and how they still see positivity and they're working towards a better thing, then that person goes, oh, well, I have pride in my appearance. I care about other things. I love my family. I this, I that. And now you've brought them into it. And once you do that, then you can kind of take them anywhere. You know, once you go, here's the emotion. They go, oh, well, I have emotions. Oh, great, then let's
take a journey.
Yeah, let's take a journey. Let's have this story together. So it's a great way to pull people in and then still make your point. Because most likely, a lot of times these days, I'm trying to reach certain people and I don't need to reach, like I don't need to reach black people to discuss racism. Like that's preached to the choir. To reach someone who's not black and discuss it in a manner in which they receive the message. Not just feel guilty, not just feel upset, not just shut down, etc., but receive it. You know, LGBTQIA, and anything that's intersectionality based. I've learned if you talk from an emotional standpoint first, then people will backtrack from there. You know, they go, oh, I feel that. Okay, now, and they'll hear everything else you say from that point forward. Yeah. You know, and they have fun with it and make people laugh and stuff.
Oh yeah, you definitely do that too. You so do that. So we've got to talk about your voice for a moment. I mean, it's great for poetry, and with some of the poems you do, I'm amazed at how many characters you are able to do within a poem. It's talent and practice. I mean, you make it look so easy, and I know that there will be people that will try for years and never get close to how you deliver things. But with your voice, you've had some other opportunities that have opened up, and part of the reason why you're out in LA, but you've had the opportunity to do some voiceover acting, as well as some actual character acting. In theater, you've got background in that. So what is that like when you're doing voiceover acting? Can you explain what that is for our viewing audience?
It's a lot. It's a lot. You learn quickly. You think, for example, people, oh, you have a great voice. Well, thank you. Like, oh, if I had your voice, and it's like, it's not that easy. Everyone has a voice.
Yes.
Right? But I couldn't, for example, if a major, well, we won't throw names on here. If a major insurance company was looking for someone to imitate a small lizard, then my voice might not be that voice.
That's right.
So I could have a great voice all day long. Like, no, we're looking for a British lizard or a British reptile. You're like, hello. Like, what would you do? So you actually have to learn and train and practice how to do more things. Also to find your niche. Like the voiceover acting world is as big as the acting world. Greg Morton is an amazing comedian, and the most just very nice, down-to-earth, plain-looking guy you'd ever meet. He's done like, I think, 7 different voices for Cartoon Network.
Wow.
That you just wouldn't see it. And then he come out and do his comedy bit. And the first thing he does is he does a 3-minute bit where he does every voice he's ever done.
Yeah.
And they're having this conversation. And you're like, how is he going like this? And he's going from Scooby-Doo to Shaggy to a Smurf to Gandalf and it's just to like Samuel L. Jackson, to just no break. And they're having this dialogue and it's just a shift. And you're like, oh, I just have a nice voice. Yeah, I'm in this corner. I'm in the nice voice box. I'm in the everyone the James Earl Jones, the Isaac Hayes, the nice rich bass.
If
box.
they need a rules and regulations voice, you're that voice.
Yeah, I'm that guy. You want to make sure your car insurance is good. I'm that guy. You want to trust your bank. I'm that guy. You got into an accident, want to know which hospital you should stop at. I'm that guy. The car you should pick. Cartoon Network. Well, I'm working on voices now. So now I'm doing other voices. We're learning how to adjust your pitch and how to, kind of throw yourself into it. But it's just like acting. You literally are, if you want to do hey, everybody, you've got to see that person in your head. Otherwise it's me. I'm like, hey, everybody. And they're like, ooh, no. He's not. No, the guy he's an old guy with a rifle and a gun. He's got a big hat like this, and he's got a corncob pipe. And you're like, hey, everybody. And he's like, no, it's the wrong cartoon. So it's a lot of work. But it's been going very well. I've done voice work for Lexus, for McDonald's, for the Charlotte Hornets, the NBA. I think something for NASCAR once, if I remember correctly. The Ohio State Medical Center, of course. That's again hospital. As a given. So it's been a real blessing. Hell, I just did one. Well, I'm in a contest for one, so I can't say what that is. I'm hoping I win that, but we're shooting for that one. Then I've also done work with the National Civil Rights Museum, Lorraine Motel. So I've done voice work for them, interviews from them, very similar to this, but with a CBS. Theater work, then acting, of course. There's been some extra parts and speaking roles. And then NAACP Image Award nominated show called Verses and Flow.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, that's where the Lexus came in because Lexus actually owned the rights to that show. So I ended up doing some VO work for Lexus in addition to the work for Versus and Flow.
And you've done some stuff with HBO with Def Jam.
Yes,
correct?
yes.
And
they did
again,
All Def Digital, which is their digital content online. They did one where they kind of brought it back just a month or 2 ago. And I was part of that, and that was an online global one. So to be asked, because that was an invitation only kind of thing. So to be invited by the producer of that to come back on that was awesome. But yeah, I've also done it in LA. Matter of fact, I did recordings for them in LA, and I think I have another one coming up, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
I think that's what your agent told me too.
Yeah. So he does work with them as well. Which is funny. We've never done work together with them, but he has artists that have done work, and then when I came on board, he's like, oh, you're right in pocket. And then also some films. Movie of the Week I did Movie of the Week where I was one of the main actors, and that was where the Emmy nomination came in for that, What Angels Fear, which is so long ago. So it's been a cool ride.
It's been a fun journey.
Yeah.
And so I would like to impose upon you, since you're in my living room for the moment, would you be willing to share one or two of your original poems?
Sure.
And before we do that,
Okay.
I do want to touch on the fact that you also have an amazing gift where people actually call and hire you outright and say, this is the topic, this is the subject, write a poem. And you do that for them.
Yes. Actually, that's how, wow, you did your work. That's how the Civil Rights Museum started. I was doing work with them for poetry events for the National Civil Rights Museum. They were having a big poetry slam. They wanted some people to come in that were familiar, acclimated to it, and kind of help them put it on. So they asked me to be part of it. I did that. Then I did that again and again. Then they have an event called the Freedom Awards. And anyone who watches that, if you don't know what it is, look it up. It's an amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awards for people. I know that are just doing the work, not just in terms of civil rights, but in terms of humanity as a whole. Nelson Mandela's received one. Oprah Winfrey's received one. So heads of state, like literal kings and queens, have received them. And they contacted me one year and they said, "Hey, we had a crazy idea. We wanted you to write something." I was like, "Sure." And like, "We want you to write a poem for this event." And I was like, easy, done. They said, "Well, we give 3 awards a year, and no one ever repeats. So you have to write one poem about all 3 people." I said, "Cool, 1 poem per person." They said, "No, 1 poem.
Incorporating all 3.
Incorporate all 3 people, their accomplishments, what they've done, what they achieved in their life. Oh, and by the way, here are all our sponsors."
And get them in there too.
Get them in there or don't offend them. So like if we have Ford, don't say Toyota. We have Nike, don't say, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So
like do all this and you have about 4 minutes. You're like, did I sign the contract already? Yeah, okay, fine. But that's been wonderful. That's turned into an ongoing relationship where now I'm kind of the curator for that part of the event for them. So that's been the people that I've been able to meet. I just last year was John Legend, Gloria Steinem, things like that. We just like Dr. Bernice King, and you're standing like
right there next to
you, and they're like, "You did great." I'm like, "No, you're great." They're like, "No, the work you did." Like, yeah. So but I'll gladly do a short poem. But no, I'll definitely do a poem. It's not a problem.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Of course.
And then once we're done with that, you're going to share with us how people can connect to your social media so that they can follow you, because after you stir their hearts, I know they're going to want more, because that's what Ed does. He stirs. So take it away.
Thank you. This is perfect. I don't have to worry about a Kate showing up because we're in a studio. This is called Kiss Me Kate, and there's no Kate in this room, so I'm upset. Don't be afraid to take a step closer to me. Believe each movement of your feet is a song gaining its voice, and my loving you is a privilege, not a choice. So of course I fell in your eyes, is what I was made to do. But it'll never stop my flying towards your smile. So let all the wax melt from my wings. And I'll make candles out of it that only sing when they are lit by the fire that's inside of your heart. See, just the other day, I stole the laughter from a schoolroom full of children, and I placed them beneath my ribs, so when you tickle me, the piano of my body will play the keys of all our kids. Can I be your one regret? And you my only good deed. I'll be Isaac to your Icarus, and the only thing we will ever need will be our hands to build a tomorrow that's better than our right now. And I don't say I love you, because love can't handle the burden of that much pressure. But in spite of that, I am positive that back on God's dresser is a picture of you from Inspiration when she has writer's block and her lover hasn't called her back in 6 days. But still you ask me, how many ways do I love you? Well, 1 for every breath and 1 for every step. More than hookers love promises and winos need sunrise. So take me in your arms, we'll never grow cold. I swear to God, girl, if you kiss me real quick tonight, we won't ever grow old. So come on and kiss me real quick so we don't ever grow old, and let's make each other young again.
In a good way.
In a good way, right?
Yes.
Social media is all very simple. I keep everything in my name. I was that crazy person who just started that, and I should have changed. I'll get a stage name. By the time I thought to do it, it wasn't gonna be cool. So it's Ed Mabrey, EDM as in Michael, AB as in boy, REY is everything. It's my website, it's my Instagram, it's my Facebook. Don't do Facebook, for the love of God. Instagram is my Twitter. Everything you see this face, it should be me. There's a couple not me's out there. I've learned the hard way, but most of it will be me, especially if it's half of my face. It's half of my face, odds are it's me, because I'm posting half of my face. It's an old stupid joke, yeah.
Well, and you're also all over YouTube, so if people
Yes.
want to go out and hear some more of your poetry, they can do that also.
Yeah, if they just put in
a lot
Ed
of
and poetry,
performance-y,
they'll find
yeah.
me better that way than they will my name. People misspell my name so many times that if you just put in Ed and poetry, I come up more in searches if you put in my actual name. It's like, oh, I found out the hard way too. It was someone's like, oh, I love this poem. I was like, where'd you find that? It's like, oh, I just put in Ed. It's like, how many Ed? Like, yeah, I was like, oh. But like, I'm the only Ed Mabrey on Facebook, and I'm the only Ed Mabrey on Instagram and Twitter, I think, so far. So it streamlines really quick.
Good, good. Thank you so much for being here and visiting with us,
of course,
sharing parts of your story and journey. And I look forward to continuing our friendship as we continue the journey to make a positive difference in this world.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best from both. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for tuning in. We are very happy you were with us today. Until the next time, be well.